everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to recap and review Barbershop, a 2002 comedy directed by Tim Story, written by Mark Brown, Don D. Scott, and Marshall Todd, and starring Ice Cube, Anthony Anderson, Sean Patrick Thomas, Eve, Troy Garity, Michael Ealy, Leonard Earl Howze, Keith David, and Cedric the Entertainer. The film grossed $77 million worldwide on a $12 million production budget. It launched the acting careers of Eve and Michael Ealy, and it spawned several other projects, including a sequel, Barbershop 2, Back in the Business, which was released in 2004, a third in the franchise, Barbershop The Next Cut, which was released in 2016, Barbershop the TV series, which ran for one season on Showtime beginning in 2005, and Beauty Shop, a spin-off movie which was released in 2005. And for some, these facts would be enough to consider the original that started it all, Barbershop, a classic. But today, we will determine whether it is a classic from the Wright Perspective. We'll do a recap, discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. But let's start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, my name is Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
I am Brittany Wright, and I'm the youngest, and I have a VHS of this movie.
I love that. I love that. Brittany's VHS collection, it continues to just be top notch. It's got all the goods. It's got all the goods.
So did you watch it digitally or did you pull up your trusty VHS?
You know, I watched it on YouTube. Okay. I did. I rented it on YouTube because my VHS player is hooked up to my little baby 13-inch. Gotcha. I can't throw it away. Gotcha. I can't throw it away.
Gotcha. It's so good.
I don't even know if they'd have the cord to connect it to your regular TV.
First of all, I have one. Okay. All right. Well, that's what you need to know. What you need to know.
And Britt, just so we can all fully put in context how whack it is that you have that VHS. This movie is celebrating its 20th anniversary. Y'all, 20th anniversary. I mean, that is bananas. But can I just say, like, I love that people are actually celebrating it. Like, it was, I streamed it, you know, but after I streamed it, I was Googling around, come to find out it's playing in theaters around New York. Actually playing in theaters around New York this weekend.
I love that.
So I could have seen it on the big screen, and I love that.
Yeah. And I like when stuff does that.
It's so good. It's so good. So y'all, let's talk about voting symbols. We got to pick a voting symbol for this one. And let me just say, there were so many. Okay. I have 2 to recommend for consideration, but I had like 8. Okay. I cut them down for the sake of time because Brittany keeps saying our podcasts are too long. So I'm not going to go through all
too long.
Okay, let's count down from 10. Recommendation. Okay, no. So here are the 2. The first one is the envelope of cash. Okay. All right. The envelope of cash, it represented the ownership of the barbershop being given and taken. Right. And what makes it such a good symbol is that there was a point in time where Calvin realized that he didn't want to relinquish ownership of the barbershop. And he was trying to get the envelope back. And the bad guy wouldn't take it. He wouldn't take it, you know? And so
this is giving me flashbacks of Brown Sugar. Did she suggest the park bench for Brown Sugar?
That sounds right.
I don't know why it's not giving you flashbacks to every episode we've ever recorded.
On that bench. And my second recommendation, which honestly, everybody, I hope you have a tissue nearby because you might get emotional when I say it. Yeah. It is the mural of Calvin's father that's in the barbershop. Why? Because it is not just the father. It is the father and other people. Okay. It's the community. Okay. And that's what this movie is really about. Okay. When you get right down to it, it is about a love story between a barbershop and a community. Okay. And that is why that mural is so good, because it is that father figure there with that mural of community with him that just sums it all up. Those are my recommendations.
Well,
what you got? And if either one of you all say eraser, I'm shutting the whole podcast down.
Well, let me turn my camera off.
First of all, I both equally love your recommendations in the same way that I know we're not using either of them, but I love both of them maximum.
You did very well. Yeah.
But yes, I was thinking Clippers or the barbershop pole.
Oh yeah, that little blue and white red thing. I guess I was thinking the Clippers, eraser, and also...
the only thing about the razor is the razor in a black barbershop is there, and it's especially for some barbers, it's part of what they do in terms of keeping the line tight. But I wouldn't say it's universal enough
to use it
to really represent the barbershop.
But bro, for this particular movie, there was a gentleman in the barbershop that represented, elderly, like the seasoned, the people who understood barbers as craftsmen. And he was the one that used that razor and went to town and got that beard together that day. So I think a razor would be perfect.
But what I'm saying is
that without resentment.
In reality, most black men don't use razors because it gives us razor bumps. So like that can never represent
the community. Which third option was just the actual barbershop as a whole, just the building. Like,
so you want the symbol for the barbershop to be the barbershop?
Why not? So much goes on in there. There are clippers in there. There are razors in there. There's the red and white barbershop.
So because it holds
what is going on this morning?
The mural is in there.
What? What is wrong with you two? Brittany, you're usually the one who grounds us.
Cannons to the left of them. Cannons to the right of them.
Volley.
I figured. Or because I'm thinking in my mind it's the sidewalk and the barbershop that we have.
We have to move on. We have to move on.
Okay, listen. What we're gonna do,
bro? You pick it. You pick it because you are a black man that has been in the barbershops. That's your territory. You pick the symbol. Go.
We're just gonna do Clippers. Okay.
Wonderful.
We're just
pick
gonna do
the most obvious and pedestrian one. Great.
Which
all right.
It is much more pedestrian.
The barbershop that is much more, on the side of the sidewalk inside the barbershop.
She said, I felt like the barbershop.
Is it symbol of the barbershop?
Mm-hmm.
With no irony. Irony. You really?
It was a real suggestion.
It was.
All right.
I love you.
Well,
I love myself.
I think I'm actually really happy it happened because I want everyone to see what we're dealing with.
We're starting something. Podcast people, we're gonna you tell us how awesome that suggestion was.
They're gonna
it was know. Great.
Just
type it. Type it. If you agree with me, say yes, barbershop. That's what you type that.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. Type that.
All right. I look forward to counting up to 0 when we look for them. All right. So let's do a recap. For those who are new to our podcast, we do a spoiler-filled recap because our content is, for the most part, is pretty darn old. And people can't remember all the details, but they want to enjoy the podcast, or they haven't seen it yet, but they want to enjoy the podcast. So we do a recap. So here we go. So Barbershop. Our movie takes place on the south side of Chicago, and for 2 years, Calvin Palmer Jr., played by Ice Cube, has been running a barbershop that he inherited from his father, and he is tired of it. He tells his pregnant wife, Jennifer Palmer, played by Jasmine Lewis, that he wants them to have a lifestyle similar to Oprah and Stedman's, and he knows the barbershop is not going to get them there. Meanwhile, Jennifer is proud of him for continuing his grandfather and father's legacy. The shop had been around for 40 years by the time Calvin inherited it. And she reminds Calvin that the barbershop is not just a business, it is a gathering spot for the community. And by the time Calvin comes around to agree with her and sees the beauty and importance in the shop, he had already sold it to a local businessman, Lester Wallace, played by Keith David, for $20,000. And if you don't know what business is, I don't know what to tell you. Okay. But he is not a businessman, but he's a businessman. And Calvin tries to give the money back. But Lester says the only way that he will cancel his deal is if Calvin gives him $40,000 by the end of the day. Okay. Otherwise, Lester is going to turn the barbershop into a strip club. Okay. A gentleman's club. And guess what? Calvin is not going to be able to get $40,000 together by the end of the day. He had the initial 20. He would have had to get $20,000 more by the end of the day. And that's just not going to happen. And so Calvin has to break the news to his wife and the barbers in the shop, and everyone is heartbroken and angry. Meanwhile, one of the barbers in the shop, Ricky, played by Michael Ealy, has gotten caught up in some mess. His cousin, JD, played by Anthony Anderson, used Ricky's truck to steal an ATM out of a convenience store. Okay. Ultimately, Ricky ends up getting arrested for this crime he did not commit. Calvin uses the $20,000 to bail Ricky out of jail. And he goes over once again to get Lester Wallace to let him out of the deal. And you're like, Calvin, that didn't work the last time. Why are you going back over there, Calvin? Well, this time, Calvin has got one of his community connections on his side, a police officer that knows the shop. And when Lester Wallace still won't let Calvin out of the deal, the police arrive and threaten to take Lester in for all of his business, including the evidence laying all around the chop shop where the confrontation takes place. Lester lets Calvin out of the deal so that he won't get arrested, and the police let him go. Fortunately, Ricky's cousin, JD, that stole the ATM, is actually at the chop shop. Okay. And so the police get to arrest him, and they don't walk away empty-handed. And ultimately, what you see, they do a flashback to a couple of months down the line, and you get to see that Calvin has really leaned into his life as that cornerstone of the community, and as that owner of the barbershop. His wife has since had the baby, and you see that all the barbers are there, and it seems like everyone is thriving. The end.
Yay!
Woohoo!
Barbershop.
And I will just say, this movie is so chock full of interesting characters that, you know, for the sake of brevity, didn't get into all those characters in the recap. But the actual the character writing, I think, is really a key element of this film. They really spent time making sure that they had a great diversity in the characters that were showing up. And they also were characters that feel nostalgic for you if you're like, you know, Black in America. You're like, oh, I know those people, you know. So if you just feel that connection to those characters. But I think, bro, you got to kick us off, bro, because again, out of the three of us, I think you probably spent more time in men's barbershops than we have.
You don't know my life.
That's true. Because in the 60s, you did used to be in the barbershop.
Listen.
Yes, you did. What am I talking about?
Listen, Barbershop Betty is what they used to call me.
Yeah, they did. That's right.
Barbershop Betty.
That's what they used to call me.
She was in the
That don't sound like a good thing.
She was in the shop. It was the 60s.
Thank you for what you with.
It was
a good time. We were free. It was a good time. We were free. Listen.
Oh my God. Bro, what what did you think of the actual? I kind of want to just start with like the setting, like that barbershop setting, the people that were there, the comings and goings of the folks. Bro, did that feel authentic to you? Was that in alignment with your experience?
It's I'm trying to, because my sisters have been very strict on me about making sure I don't give my real thoughts until the end, but like I'm trying to figure out how to talk about it without
for those that are new to the podcast, Aubrey at the top of the podcast with 100% of his opinion at the top.
Yeah, I do.
There's nothing left to talk about.
I won't.
I loved it. It was amazing.
I won't deny.
It was trash.
I'm not going to deny that. I do like starting at the top, but I'm working hard though to get into the.
Let's see if you can do it.
But I'm just because what I'm saying is the barbershop, especially. I don't feel it as much now, but especially back then, it was just a very important part. You know what I'm saying? Of life. I remember the first time I was able to go to the barbershop. You know what I'm saying? And like back then, there wasn't no appointments and all that kind of stuff. So you would just go there and you would say, you'd say, I'm here, I'm in line. And then you just had a good portion of your day, which was going to be spent sitting there. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's how it was. It was just like, my first barber, her name was Tanya. I'll never forget because Dad had always cut my hair, but I wanted a box. You know what I'm saying? So when I was 8 to go get a box, like an official box, I went to the barbershop. Her name was Tanya. And
I'm going to put in a picture of Aubrey with his box.
Yeah, okay.
You have to do the one where he's teasing with his dimples.
Yes, and his glasses.
But send it to me so I can make sure it's a barbershop box. Because there were pre.
Uh-oh.
There were attempts.
Uh-oh.
There were pre barbershop boxes.
Okay.
Which warranted the barbershop transition. You understand?
The Wright family, we've been through some transitions.
As a matter of fact, if you send me a couple, because I might be able to show like this was the
difference.
The pre-barbershop box.
Yeah.
And this is the barbershop box.
Okay.
Because my dad used to come here.
Cool.
And you know how dads are, I'll give you a box. Come here.
It's like this is.
I didn't mean like a shipping box. That's not, I wasn't going for that for carton for shipping carton.
I wasn't going for that.
And y'all need to know. I feel like our father never ever went to a barbershop, and Aubrey could probably say that was wrong. But I just feel like as I'm growing up, I don't remember our dad ever going to a barbershop.
I remember him going for special occasions. I do.
He might have went like.
It was like if he was in a wedding or like for Valentine's Day.
Like a couple of times. But he was a barber. So like for him.
Yeah. It was doing his own hair.
That's how he went through college, was cutting people's hair. So like for him, I'll just cut my hair. You know what I'm saying? Like right. That's how.
Do y'all remember that gold like circle one with all of the pieces in it for his clippers? It was like a yellow.
That was mommy
circle. Oh, many pieces.
Those were lady razor pieces.
Oh
yeah, I remember that because it also had like it could be like a nail buffer. So I know which one you're talking about.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. He. But the point I'm trying to make is that is very significant. The maddest I've ever been at Mom was involved in the barbershop. The maddest, till this day, 44 years old, the maddest I've ever been at Mom was involved in the barbershop.
What happened?
Aubrey told us about this in another part. He told us about.
Oh, well, then I won't repeat it again.
I can't remember it. Say it again.
I wonder what prompted.
Lord, you need some ginkgo biloba.
I do.
Do you remember which?
I don't remember which podcast. I just remember.
I wonder what
how she called it. But
since I already told it, I won't.
And this would be great because it's for
our new viewers. Bro, what if there are new viewers?
Okay, all right. Well, look, I'm gonna just tell the story. If you heard it before, I apologize. But I'm just saying.
We love it. We want to hear.
When basically how it worked, Dad was giving me my cuts, but that's back when it was just, all low like I have now. So basically, he would just have to cut it down, shape me up, and that's that. But when I wanted to start doing the boxes, I mean, he wasn't bad, but that just wasn't what he did. You know what I mean? And so I went to the barbershop. My first barber was Tanya, and it was cool for a while. My box was growing up, but one day in that initial phase, Mom drove to the barbershop, and I was actually walking to the barbershop on my own. So they would give me the money. I'd go walk down, to the barbershop. And it was just a very prideful moment in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like I could get my little money, go to the barbershop, get my cut. But I go in there and Mom had drove to the barbershop and told her to cut my box down. And what I got to explain to you, I'm a young kid.
Bro, to cut it off, like to make it no longer a box?
No,
it
was still
lower?
A box. It was just, but you remember back then having a box, the whole point was
to make it tall.
Yeah, to make it tall. Like that was, so like after a couple of cuts, you start getting your height there. Because every time you would get your haircut, it'd get cut down a little bit, but you would, in the middle, you would grow a little,
That's right.
And so it was finally getting to where I wanted. And she went and told her, and I'm the young cat who's just getting into this barbershop world. But, so everybody who's in there is the older guys, and they can see in my face, I am furious. And I can just see them laughing right now. I can see it right now. Because they know I'm going to get over it and say, like this is not, but in my time, this is the biggest thing ever, and I just
bro, when you got there, Mommy was still there?
No. She had already left.
She had already left.
So I had sat there the whole time waiting in my turn in line. And then when I got in the chair, Tanya was like, "Nah, your mama came down." And she said, "We gotta cut this box down." And like the whole barbershop. And I'm so mad. I'm fighting back tears. All I can do is focus to fight back the tears. And I can still hear Tanya say, "If you mad, say you mad." And I can get it.
Man, shout out to Tanya, because we need to find her.
Because if I was an older kid at this time, just say I was, 18 or something at the barbershop, it would have been hilarious to me. Right. So I get what they were doing. And I'm going to tell you, y'all know I was terrified of that and all that kind of stuff. But I just remember that day, as soon as I got out, I was like, I'm telling Mom, I feel about this. I don't care what happens. Whatever happens.
I was like, I'm dying today.
The record will be clear. The record will be clear.
Because I was just like, how could you do it?
Like that.
Like, can you imagine?
It's such a violation.
You're walking
such a violation.
You're walking to the barbershop. And she never, after I flipped out, she didn't even tell Dad. She didn't tell Dad I flipped out. She didn't tell Dad.
Because she was wrong.
She didn't tell Dad I flipped out. And after that, she never did it again.
But you know what, though? We have to get the reasoning behind why she did that.
I just think our mom had a very conservative view of how she wanted us to show up. She had a look. She had a feel, that she wanted us to bring into the room. And Aubrey having a super tall box, I can see how that would not go along with her.
But the crazy thing is
her aesthetic for us.
But I wasn't even like kid, like I didn't have, I didn't even want huge box, but I wanted an official.
Oh, God.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, bro. I can't.
I wanted. And it's funny because, like, I'm joking and everything, but I can feel the emotion of it.
Of course.
When I talk about it now, because I just couldn't believe, because I'm young. I just want to kind of be in the background. I just want to. But anyway,
But it makes me think about that part on the movie where the little boy gets a hole cut in his afro. I just was like, I felt it even just seeing it this many years later, I was like, oh, you gotta wait for that to grow back.
They should have shaved that whole head. Just shave the whole head.
But I'm gonna just tell you that I've been getting my hair cut, obviously, at the barber since then. I've never seen that happen.
Yeah.
That because the that would be horrendous.
Oh my God.
Now dudes get pushed back too far. You see that. Which I'm surprised they didn't do something with that, but the whole point I'm trying to get back to is obviously the barbershop is a big part of any black man's life. You know what I'm saying? That's a big, every black man probably has some type of stories to tell surrounding a barbershop. And I will say that it didn't feel authentic to me.
What?
The barbershop didn't. And
That's so crazy, bro.
The reason why is because the conversations were too structured. It's not like at the barbershop, it's kind of like a lava lamp. Stuff just flows from subject to subject. But like people don't come out and say, so what do you think about this? And that's not how it works. Like if you did that, everybody'd be like, you're kind of making it weird in here. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not how it works. It'll be something like, the TV will be on and like something will come on and then somebody will say, I'll give you an example. Recently, this is a perfect example. I was at the barbershop and it's not as fun as it used to be because you do appointments and stuff now. You know what I mean? So it's like you're not there all day. Back in the day, you would be at the barbershop all day. So
that doesn't sound fun.
It does,
but it's fun. It is fun.
It's
because
crazy because that's the same thing that was happening at the salon.
Absolutely.
We had appointments.
Yeah,
we had appointments.
But they were imaginary.
They were imaginary.
But it's like at the barbershop, it didn't feel like you were there all day because everybody's
having
talking.
Fun. You're hanging out.
You're hanging out. Like you'll go to the store, get something to eat. You'll get some, because you don't lose your place in line once you get there.
Yeah.
And so it's not like that anymore. But like while you're there, you'll still get kind of a glimpse of it or whatever.
Yeah.
And Michael Jackson came on TV for a second. And this chick was there. I can't remember if she was getting cut or if she was, I think there's a beauty shop attached to my barbershop. So I think she worked in the beauty shop part, but she was in the barbershop at this moment. And she said she didn't like Michael Jackson. And like the whole barber, it was almost like a movie. It was like, like, what are you talking about?
How could you not like Michael Jackson?
Like nobody ever even heard that before.
I mean, his music, not who he was, but how could you not like his music? Come on.
I'm not even.
Come on.
It's universal that people like Michael Jackson.
Totally.
It's just, and so that sparked off this whole conversation. And then that spun off into Chris Brown and
Usher, probably.
Usher and Jason Weaver. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's how the conversations happen. But like in barbershop, it was just like if you would just come out and be like, well, what does everybody think about it? It would just be weird like that.
Well, bro, you know what you're reminding me of? There was a play that came out on Broadway last year called Thoughts of a Colored Man. Okay. And let me just say, we need, I'm going to go ahead and make a declaration that from the Wright Perspective, it is a classic. It was awesome.
All right.
It was so good. Y'all would love it.
That's the first, that was a classic.
Sister Nuclear classic.
Yeah, I was about to say that was a coup. That was a retrospective coup.
Totally. I don't
Aubrey, now we haven't even seen it.
I'm very happy to be presumptive because it was so good and
Right.
so well done. I cannot wait for y'all to see it. You have to see it. I'm putting on my to-do list to find out when it's going to be near y'all or get y'all to New York because it's so good. But it takes place in a barbershop, you know, and it's all Black men. The whole cast is Black men. Okay. And bro, what you're describing in terms of that very organic flow of conversation, I think that they did capture that.
They got it.
I think they did.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
That play was awesome for many reasons.
Yeah.
But they definitely captured what you're talking about, bro, in terms of the conversation culture.
Right. Because there were several points where you could see that that's what they were trying to create in the movie.
Yeah.
But it's just like, that's just not how it happens, though.
Sure.
And I guess it's surprising to me to have all those men and nobody was like, this is not.
See, that's why I'm trying to think about when you first said it. I was like, I don't remember somebody posing a question like that.
I don't either. It didn't feel
like, for
that
example, the dude with the light eyes and the afro.
Michael Ealy.
Yeah, the one who had the gun.
Ricky. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they came up and they was talking about a woman with a fat ass or a fat ass woman.
Yeah.
Right. Like that wouldn't have just came up like that. There would have been.
Oh, well, see that part. He was walking into work and they had already started that conversation.
But I'm saying, to me,
yeah,
it just felt very unnatural the way the whole conversation was going.
But he walked in and his coworkers were like, say the thing you always say about this topic. You know what I mean?
Because it was an Ice Cube asking him to talk about the ratios.
Yes. But you know what? So sis, what did you think about the culture that they had in the barbershop? You started to share that you did feel like the conversation was organic.
I did. Now, mind you, this is no interaction I've had in a barbershop.
But it still felt natural though. But it felt natural.
And I think it felt natural because I was just thinking of my experiences in a salon. Mm-hmm. And so I remember going in high school to one of those type of salons where it is like a community salon. Like sometimes they were supposed to be open and you weren't. So you were
you sitting there and it's closed during the hour times.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I do remember very clearly purchasing a purse out of a garbage bag. I remember doing that. Now I'm like, that I probably shouldn't have done that.
That guy felt
Don't hate on Hustle Man.
Listen,
hate on Hustle Man.
D-Ray felt kind of real.
D-Ray felt real, and just in terms of you always have this person with connections. Just him in this movie, him all riding down the street with this car.
His character's name was Ray Ray. His character's name was Ray Ray, and the actor is D-Ray Davis.
Yes, with his driving down the street with a snow plow on the front. All of a sudden, it's like you're walking in with dogs. What is happening? So of course, it's a movie. It's Hollywood, so you have to over exaggerate some of these characters, but it's still a real feeling. So I will say, I believed watching it. There were so many people. What I appreciated is that it shows how in the Black community, you can be yourself, at least you're supposed to be yourself fully, and be able to be accepted for how you are. And if you've done something negative, we believe that if you've served your time for whatever that is, or if someone says, hey, you're forgiven, like, then we move on. We move past that. Mm-hmm. And so I just appreciated them showing that even for, because example, Ricky, he had done his time. He had been out of jail. He's now out of jail. He's turned his whole life around. And it's like we're wanting to stand up for you because we know you're on the right and narrow, the straight and narrow. The guy who is the smart college guy, even though you're so
played by Sean Patrick Thomas, played Jimmy James.
Yes, even though you are condescending to everyone in this barbershop, we're still giving you chances to be human and for you to learn yourself. Even when it came to Eve's character had
Terry Jones was the character.
She had been dating this man for a really long time, which is so funny. I didn't even think about it until I was watching it. That's who she was dating in her actual show, Eve.
Jason Winston George played Kevin, the a-hole.
Kevin was the worst. But what you saw in this movie was her dating this abusive, mentally, and was about to be physically, a boyfriend who was cheating on her multiple times. And you saw the barbershop. At some point, you do realize you have to take your hands off of a situation for someone because they have to learn the lesson. There's nothing you can say. But immediately when Eve learned the lesson, that entire barbershop was for her.
Totally.
And so I just appreciated that. Even just having, I also just appreciated Black women being able in this movie to there be a range to where you have somebody like Eve who was like hot-headed, who drank my apple juice, all like going crazy. But then also you had his wife who she still stood firm on her morals, but she never disrespected him. She was never loud. She was never rude with him. And so I just appreciate. And then
don't forget Sonia Eddy, who played Janelle, the town gossip at the beauty shop.
Yes, I was literally about to say her, watching her. She's a Black business owner. I think sometimes we don't think about barbershop and salon owners being Black business owners, but they are. They're owning a business. They're having profits. They have employees. They have to get products. Like, these are businesses. And so just them even representing that, but then also just the community period, seeing a different perspective. Oftentimes there's like this rift between Black people and other ethnicities in the Black community, but to see there be this camaraderie from the other store owner. He was a corner store owner that the whole part of the movie really just opened up with him having his shop broken into and his ATM stolen. But watching him have camaraderie with Ice Cube's character, Calvin, just showing that this is a neighborhood. We love on each other. We look out for each other. Like, we're here for each other because we're all essentially trying to make it and wanting to look out. And even for the one guy that was coming in and he didn't have any money to pay for his haircut, and he tricked them and he ran out with his haircut, but he came back and he paid his money. But Calvin, realizing and understanding towards the end of the movie that this is about this community, he didn't even take the money from him because him getting his haircut was a larger purpose. It was for him to get this job so he could put his daughter in a better daycare because his sister was a crackhead. I said, well, this story got very interesting. So it was just one of those things where I was like, this is showing a place, and even just the importance of Cedric the Entertainer's character. We all have
Eddie
those.
Walker.
Yes, we all have those old Black people in our lives as Black people that tell us we're doing it wrong and that we don't care, because I am becoming that old Black person now. I'll be like, what is this? We didn't do this back in the day. It's like, you understand now what they're saying to you because things do change and things do evolve. But with that, because there's more assimilation, we lose some of us as time is going on. Just that authenticity of community, where right now, barbering, where it was that community aspect, you can become a Hollywood person on YouTube and TikTok and all these other platforms, to where I'm sure, of course, everything gets more expensive because of inflation, but you being able to go into a barbershop now and be able to get something free because you're going to a job interview, I'm pretty sure those types of barbershops are far and few. And so
I'll say that still is around.
That's good.
That's still
good.
Because
that makes me good. That makes me feel good.
Most barbers, especially when you have regulars, like if somebody, they're not gonna blow up your spot, but like, you know what I'm saying, you'll see a low-key conversation in a barbershop sometimes, where it's just like, you know,
I'm gonna get you next week.
Man, and you'll see it real quick, and they'll just move it on.
Let me tell you, I never tell people how much I get my hair done for because I don't know what my loctician charges everybody else, but I know what I get charged.
I mean, I feel like that's how it should.
I don't know,
but I do feel like every story that they show,
prefer a standard payment schedule.
That's why you don't. Anyway. That's why you don't go. That's why you don't have a salon. You don't have an artist.
I struggle with that just from an equity perspective.
She's been my artist since 2015. You don't have an artist. Nope, you don't count. Yeah. Sorry, bro.
I just said I felt like all of the stories they were showing were genuine. Like you feel like there was somebody who told a story about an apple juice situation, and
we've all experienced that. Like the coworkers eating your food.
Yeah, I felt like everything came from a genuine place.
Absolutely.
But I just don't feel. For me, it just felt not well put together. It felt too obvious. Like, okay, he's going to be this guy, and like, you know, he's going to be the smart college one, and he's just so. You know, like it's not
he's an
that
exaggeration.
It's like, and like, yeah, this is a situation where this happened. It's like, all right, I can see that probably came from a real story, but y'all are just kind of patching it together in a way that it doesn't feel like natural. You know, like it's like everybody felt like they were acting. Everybody felt like it was like, well, I'm the guy who does this. And I'm the guy who does this. And it's like they made a list of the personalities you see in a barbershop. And everybody.
Including the white guy. They had a white guy, Troy Garity, played Isaac Rosenberg.
Right. But
he was like, this is who I am. And I was like, it is.
And that's the other, like when you see a white dude barber in a barbershop, it's not normally like that. You'll see a white dude in a black barbershop. There's a guy named Will Stam in Atlanta. He owns a couple of black barbershops. One of the best business people I know. But they're not over the, like that guy was, that type of guy wouldn't survive in a barbershop. You would have to be just a normal dude who had like
a top-notch skill set and cutting black hair.
Just got some swag.
But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes we take away from a movie when we want everything to be like how we would experience it. Like maybe because they were in Chicago. So maybe these are how barbershops are in Chicago, but also he's from the West Coast. So maybe this is how West Coast things happen, and he was sprinkling that into what he's heard from Chicago. And you know, like I think about just that piece that it is this type of person in this type of story. Like not saying that it's a representative of all, but this is just this type of person for this particular narrative, you know, him being that way.
An interesting factoid about that actor. So Troy Garity, he was the only one in the whole cast that actually had previous haircutting experience. And so the cast actually spent a month training at a barber college to prepare for their roles. Wow. I thought that was really interesting.
It's so funny, like you didn't even get a chance to see them do any hair.
Well, actually, but if you really think about it, Troy's character was the only one you actually saw do a haircut. He really cut hair. We saw him do it. So that was interesting.
And even that scene, like it was just, it could have been so much better. That was the thing. Like, because I loved the concept of how it happened. But it was just so, well, cut my hair then. Like,
what did y'all think? What did y'all think of Cedric the Entertainer's performance? Because even though he played obviously the senior citizen, you know, deacon uncle, you know, he was only 37 when the movie was released. And so he was not alive during the Montgomery bus boycott. You know, he was 3 years old technically when Martin Luther King was assassinated. So how did y'all think? I mean, to me, that was a character that felt very caricature-ish. But as much as I was like, this is such a like a tropish kind of character, at the same time, I was like, but I also know that old man. You know?
Well, that's the thing.
I felt that way about all the characters, though. I really did.
That's what I'm saying. I felt like
including the white guy. For me,
exactly.
I felt like I knew all those people. I definitely knew that character Eve was playing. You know, I mean, I gotta say, and there was something about Calvin's character that made him such a great everyman. I mean, he was so perfectly in that dilemma of I have a life, and it actually is happy, but it's not enough. It's not enough. I'm dreaming of something else. And we get a sense of him that he's been like
Stedman's guest house,
right? We get a sense that he has been like trying a lot of different hustles. He's been trying to do some get rich quick schemes. You know, he's like trying to be an idea man when he has something about him that is very naturally emerging as, you know, his personal ministry, which is to keep the barbershop going. And he's fighting it. And I just think, gosh, we all have done that. And I'm not saying settle and rest on your laurels and let the world present you with what you need to be, you know, rally, you know, rage against. But at the same time, it was like there was something in him that just wasn't content, that I thought we all could just relate to. And then also that part where you have that revelation about like, you know what, this part of myself that I've been fighting really is who I am, you know? And it's like, I'm going to lean into that, you know, at this point, you know? So I thought his character was really good. And, you know, we started to talk about it in bits and pieces, but really quickly would love to like segue to like the overarching storyline. You know, we've talked about like the setting, we've talked about some of the characters. What about the overarching story? You know, and our story is, again, it's like, you know, he in his lack of contentment, Calvin sells the shop, and then he realizes pretty early in the movie that was a mistake. And the whole movie is him. He's like in this battle. He wants to get the shop back. He wants to undo what he's done. And then at the end, what actually helps him to undo it is a connection from the barbershop. And for me, you all, I thought that was a wonderful story arc, to kind of like the thing he was running from to be the thing that saved him at the end and allowed him to right his mistake, to actually be able to have his revelation and everything be okay, you know? So what did y'all think of like the actual storyline and the way they, that central story? There was the central story of Calvin selling the shop. And then there was the secondary story of the ATM having been stolen.
Listen, those characters of Anthony Anderson and the other guy who's Lorenzo's brother, I hate that I don't know his name.
Yo, that's Lorenzo's brother?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, he looks like Lorenzo.
he looks
that's his brother.
I was like, yo, that is so weird. But it's not Lorenzo. I was like, that dude looked, because I almost thought it was in the first. So okay.
His name is Lamard Tate.
That's it.
Lamard. And his character was Billy.
Which he's been in so much. Yeah. Yes, he's been in so much.
Okay.
It's so funny.
I don't know why I never knew that. I never knew that.
And so just the two of them are perfect examples of also that although we have this community that we're loving on each other and we want to see the best, we always gotta have some little shysters up in there, ready to put your cousin in jail so you can get this ATM that ultimately has no money in it.
No money in it. You can't open it anyway.
Exactly. Like, so I think that the overall story that people are people. We're going to make good decisions. We're going to make bad decisions. But it doesn't make us undeserving of forgiveness, love, and patience. And so we all deserve those things at some point in our lives. And I think that this movie really showed that very well. And shout out to Ice Cube. Let me tell you something. I was saying this to Janelle, or I might have texted to both of y'all, where I was just like, Ice Cube will do some sequels for one type of movie.
And
another thing,
yes, he will. Yes,
he will have a movie that only happens over a span of a day or two. And you will get a whole, and he's like, listen, I'm gonna tell you a story. And this story happened this day, and I sold the shop and I got it back. You know, like you're getting.
Now he wasn't the writer there, but that's definitely his claim to fame.
His claim, like the way he does things, and so I just because he has what Friday after next Friday next Friday after next, even when it's like, are we there yet? And then it's, are we done yet? And so I just love Ice Cube, and I also, you know, I just really appreciated just the story. It was an interesting story, and I know it's hard to fit in a story in people's backstories. That's the other thing. We were getting people's backstories in this 2-hour movie.
Yes, we were.
And that was so many characters to get backstories. So I understand exactly what Aubrey is saying, where it looks like some of it was like, but it was like, we're trying to fit all of these.
And that's
ensemble cast in
the I think you actually really summarized how I feel, because I think that the movie just felt, when we're talking about the story even, it just felt very, for me, patched together, but everything came from a good place.
Yeah.
But it was almost like, okay, we have a list of things we want to do.
Yeah.
And everybody was just trying to be their thing, rather than a story like Friday, where we had all the ghetto elements that he was trying to explain, but it just flowed together.
I had such a different experience. And listen, I want to let y'all know, like, I would not put this like this to me. So, and actually, this is a quick segue to the music. Also, the music in the movie. There was a scene where they were playing the music, "Gotta Give It Up," you know, the Marvin Gaye song,
right?
You know, and what they did was they just did a little montage where they went to everybody in the town that we had met, into all the different settings we had, even if we'd only been there for a little while. And we saw the characters just dancing, jamming out to that good Marvin Gaye song. And I got to tell you, that to me, I feel like that was the intention of this movie. I feel like the intention of this movie was just to give us like Black people, y'all so funny, Black people, are y'all so sweet. Like, I felt like
your people.
It was trying to accomplish that goal of like giving us a warm fuzzy about us. And I felt like that music montage kind of summed it up. And so I will say, like, in some ways, I would call this like the Lifetime movie of hood films. You know, in terms of like,
I can see that.
In terms of like,
it was a Hallmark movie for him.
It was like Hallmark in the.
No, I think that's a good.
And when I was starting to realize that's what it was, I could take it for that. And, you know, anytime you see an ensemble and they have like one Black person, one white person, one Asian person, you're like, all right, you guys are really being very intentional about giving us a little bit of everything. That's how the Barbershop was. It was like the smart guy, the white guy, the lady, you know, the old guy, you know. But I was like, I see what you're doing, and I'm picking up what you're dropping.
Even having someone, Dinka, being African.
They had an African man, exactly. And they had the store owner across the street that actually got vandalized. He turned out to be Indian.
He was Indian.
They thought he was Pakistani for a minute.
Didn't nobody think he was Pakistani? Only Sean Patrick Thomas was Pakistani. He was like, he's Pakistani.
Real arrogant with it too.
So arrogant. And yeah, and you know, I'll throw one other thing out that to me was like, again, this is like the Hallmark movie of Lifetime, because there were little pieces of love story, you know, but it wasn't necessarily the whole thing was a love story. It was like you saw a little bit of a potential romance between Eve's character and a Dinka. I think his name is, let me pull up the actors.
Dinka.
Yeah, his name was Dinka, played by Leonard Earl Howze. You saw a little bit of something between, you know, Dinka and Terry. We definitely saw the true, very real seasoned love between Calvin and Jennifer, you know. And to me, I was like,
the Indian man and his girlfriend or his wife. That was my favorite part.
His
I was
boo.
waiting
He
for
was
that
like,
part.
oh my boo.
Oh,
I
my
know.
I
wouldn't put that on my list of my love story part that I was talking about,
but it was so cute because it was so random.
But it was cute. That was the thing. There were things in this movie that I would call cute and sweet, as opposed to like, oh, so good. I would just say, oh, that was cute. Oh, that was so sweet.
It was,
and that's what you do in the Hallmark movie. Exactly.
It was a feel-good movie.
Yeah. Did y'all have any observations or takeaways about the music? I pulled up this soundtrack and I gotta say, it's so many songs like this. Trade It All with P. Diddy and Jagged Edge, Stingy, Genuine, What's Come Over Me.
I did recognize that song and I started laughing because right now Genuine is viral famous right now because of a dance he did at a concert.
We're not going to talk about that.
Listen,
we're not.
But here's the thing.
I didn't see it.
We're not going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you this.
Listen,
Genuine, I still support you.
No, listen. That's the thing though. Genuine has leaned into this. And at his recent performances he's been doing, he's still doing the dance as a joke. And so I love him. I love him even more. That's my point though, because listen, I love Genuine. I will love him forever. Even when I saw them do this challenge, I was like, y'all leave him alone. It's funny because leave Genuine alone. He has fully leaned into it. And so, but
I love that. I love that he does that. You're gonna have me going to go look that up.
You have to look it up.
I love that.
To him.
Because life is fun, man.
It is. And he has not you can't see him being angry about it. He's just out here living his life. But to listen to his song being in there, Stingy, but then to know that in 2022, he's still touring, he's having a good time. There's currently a hashtag genuine challenge. Like this is that's fun. Like it's nice to know that the past is connecting with the present and how that's working out. So yes, when I heard Stingy, it also made me laugh because R&B back in the day, and it's still like that in some pieces because you have some people that still have those strong voices, but R&B definitely had that gospel, all these people were raised in church. And so I just think about that Stingy song and like Genuine being like, whoa, 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 it's just that sound, that type of thing. And so I do remember that song coming up and being played in the movie.
Well, Genuine might be finding his way back to relevance, but there's some or has remained relevant, I should say, correction. There are some artists on this list that I kind of forgot about, not gonna lie.
Okay.
Could have been You by 3LW, Baby Girl by B2K. I ain't thought about no B2K.
Okay, so listen.
Are they still around?
3LW, while they're no longer a group, Adrienne Bailon, she's been on Real the Real Talk. What is the name of that show?
She's from 3LW.
Yes, and Adrienne Bailon, she has her own show. Her and her husband, they recently just had a baby. So she's doing her thing. And then you have Notori Naughton. Notori Naughton has been in she's the dark skinned one from 3LW. She has been in so much stuff like Power itself was like a whole cult situation, and it has spun off into so much stuff. So Notori Naughton has done so much stuff. Now the other one, I saw her in the reality show. She hasn't really done a lot that I'm familiar with, but they're doing things. And then even B2K, Omarion, I was just watching an interview with him on a Breakfast Club. He's written a book about having this relaxed life, about being calm, and the name of the book is Unbothered. So it's like these individuals and the B2K, they were having the Millennium Tour not too long ago. Of course, COVID messed a lot of stuff up, but they were still touring. And B2K, it's out there, but it's controversy type stuff that's out there. But but they're still out there and relevant in the sense of that. But Omarion, he's written a book. He's long locks, he's just not
grown man.
So these people are out there, and he's come out with a ton of music after when he was just Omarion by himself. So
sis, you just set my record real straight.
No, I'm just saying I'm happy for these people. Yeah, because this is when you're a genuine artist. Even in the movie, Eve was a rapper, Ice Cube a rapper. You know, like you have these individuals that are, even Cedric Entertainer, he's a comedian. It doesn't necessarily equate that you can be an actor or an actress, but you see these people leaning into these different parts of themselves.
Absolutely.
When you're a true, genuine artist and you're talented, you can try different things and see if they work, and if they don't, and if they do, they do. So, you know, I think about that. So I'm sorry. Keep listening off the list.
Well, that I got most of it out there. I mean, they have I See You by Eddie F. Better to Leave, performed by Jordan Brown. Baby, 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 performed by Colin. Ben, Lil Kano. They also, yeah, you don't know about Lil Kano? Yeah. And they had And We, performed by P. Diddy, Black Rob, Big As Co, Kane Coify, G. Depp, Foxy Brown, Craig Mack, and the Mighty Ha. And they had another classic song, which I remember now that I'm reading it on the list, which
and of
is,
course
I'll take you there.
For my ASMR, I just want an hour of Janai reading rap names. That's all.
Especially these names that are out here now. And of course, you have to know that Diddy is still out there. Sean Combs is going to reinvent himself every 5 seconds, as long as he is something out there between vodka, rims, clothes, music.
Yeah,
he's going to do something.
Here's one. What's Come Over Me by Glenn Lewis and Amel LaRue. I don't remember that playing, but you had me at Amel LaRue and Glenn Lewis.
What was you saying about Ice Cube, bro?
I would say Ice Cube and P. Diddy are two of my favorite business people.
Oh, just, big time.
Yeah, because I was an Ice Cube rap fan back in the day. And to see how, like, Ice Cube was hardcore when it comes to rapping. And to see him evolve, like, yeah,
You mean like gangsta content?
He was in NWA.
Okay, got it. I didn't watch that yet. I didn't watch that special yet to get those details.
Well, all you need to know is what NWA stands for.
I got the gist.
I mean,
Ice
their
Cube
anthem, F the police.
Ice Cube came out of NWA. And
okay.
And
got it.
As a solo artist, you know, like he even went into some horror rap type, you know, like stuff got deep. Like he had a song called Wicked. It's just, and to see Ice Cube Wicked, who's also Ice Cube, are we there yet? I just got so much respect for that. Dude.
Yeah, right on.
Because it's just like, ain't nobody questioning Ice Cube's realness. But he's out here getting, like, yo, you're supposed to expand. You're supposed to.
Absolutely. He even has, what's that basketball league called, bro? Big Three.
The Big Three.
He has a basketball league.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's doing a lot of things.
So anyway, I was about to segue into close up language.
Yeah, close us up, bro, because we hit all that. We hit the characters and the acting. We talked about the story. We definitely talked about the music, the general setting. Take us to the vote, bro. Do it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I've never seen any of the subsequent Barbershop stuff. And I remember when Barbershop came out. And I remember being disappointed walking out the theater. But I wasn't going, that's why I've never seen any subsequent stuff. And I think for me, what it was, is I felt like this movie should have been, like, it should have been amazing. And I just feel like, because it had all the elements there to be amazing, and it just wasn't, it just bothers me more. You know what I mean? Because if I felt like it could just be like a throwaway movie, I might have felt different, but it's like, yo, y'all are so close to having something stupendous here. But with all that being said, I know how much Barbershop has been around. So when I watched this, I was like, this is the only thing I want to make it a classic. Either I'm going to laugh out loud, or there will be a line from this movie that has entered into the ethos. If one of those two things happens, I would make it a classic. And neither one of those things happened for me.
But bro, what about Pretty Ricky?
Pretty Ricky's.
Is that not from this movie? What's Pretty Ricky from?
What?
Remember when
Listen,
JD.
You're going to leave this clip in. You're going to leave this.
JD was.
Janelle, stop. Janelle,
was angry.
Janelle,
I'm
stop.
telling Brittany
to
when he said it. JD, was like, he was resentful about his cousin. And so when he found out his bad deeds was sending his cousin to jail, he basically said, "Oh, take that, Pretty Ricky."
Oh, okay.
And I was like, "Oh, that's where Pretty Ricky comes from."
Nope.
Janelle, stop.
Nope.
Stop. That's not where it comes
But
from.
he was pretty, and
Janelle,
his name was Ricky.
Janelle, stop, please.
And those two things are true. Those two things are true.
Janelle,
But the
and he said
of Pretty Ricky.
I love how we don't even have to explain what's happening right now. But what I want you to do, Janelle, here's your homework. You need to go find the origins of Pretty Ricky. Because I think that's the only way we can let her reclaim her black card. But I
don't think that it's like taking away her black card, but I just kind of feel like,
it has to at least be impounded. Like there has to be a consequence.
Be careful because Pretty Ricky was also an R&B group. So I don't want you to think that that's the origins of it either.
Well, can you just tell me? I don't want to end the podcast in the dark. I spent so much of my life in the dark.
That is an interesting point, but I just don't think that's what they were referencing. All right, Janelle, so look,
because Pretty Ricky was from when I was younger, so I know that it precedes that. The Pretty Ricky
just
reference.
Tell us, bro.
Okay, well, anyway, and one of what I'm talking about, and what I felt like is in the ethos is it was from Martin, the TV show. And there was an episode. There was an episode where a old rival was named Ricky. And throughout the whole show, like when he talked about Ricky, he would be like, he would turn to the camera and he'd be like, Pretty Ricky, what they called him.
I remember that now that you're saying it.
Yeah. And I know that.
Thank you, bro.
I've heard of this group, Pretty Ricky, but I thought that when we're referencing Pretty Ricky in
black colloquial,
yeah. I always, in my mind, we're always talking about the Martin.
But bro, as soon as you said that you did the setup, I remember Pretty Ricky, what they called him. I remember that.
I'm gonna tell you one thing about Martin. That dude was a genius, and
it's
I'm just
in our community.
Yeah,
in our everyday language.
So many of his things are in everyday language.
So many of his things. But I'm just
it.
talking about when that came out. That was like hold your stomach funny because like when I could just sit Pretty Ricky with the car.
All right, y'all. I will say, I know that Martin was the 90s, okay?
Right.
But the group, I just Googled, okay? I don't have more information than a 2-second Google.
Yeah.
But the singing group, Pretty Ricky, they had a song that they released in July of 2003 called, What They Call Them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then Martin
group.
is definitely
He's the origin.
He's the origin.
He's the origin.
At least the origin. We know right now.
It's like, how would you even
look at there's
the
more
cadence of
See, bro, I'm
y'all.
happy we talked it through because then I could because I do remember that now that you said it.
Okay.
That was a close one.
We have reissued your book.
Man, I lose that thing more often than I'd like just to say.
You never lose it, but it has been impounded a few times. It's been impounded.
It's on layaway sometimes.
Oh man, well, bro, you were
so
about
anyway.
to give us your vote.
So I am torn, but I just can't call it a classic. I couldn't find a reason to call it because even all the songs, there wasn't a song that was attached to that movie that I attach to that movie mentally. Like, you know how there's songs that when you hear them, it just takes you right to Love Jones, or it takes you right to, Poetic Justice. Like, I didn't have none of those. I didn't have anything that made me feel like, this is my part. Like none of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm torn, but I can't call it a classic for me.
Wow.
But it's like, but at the same time, you say stuff like, it made $77 million off a $12 million budget, as all of this.
And y'all, the rest of the franchise, they cleaned up. That's what you need to know. They cleaned up that franchise.
I've realized that this is probably going to be
I'll
be opinion for myself.
Let me tell you all this. There have been times where we had a natural instinct. Well, actually, it happened one time where we had a natural instinct for something not to be the right perspective. And I was like the main one leading the charge of trying to convince us to change it. And we did. And I have regretted it every day since. Yeah. And so, bro, that's where you landed. You know what I mean? Yeah. We can't do these on principle.
Yeah, I get it.
As much as I am shocked, bro, we're going to support you. Okay. And I'll be interested to see where you land, sis. Y'all, for me, this is a classic. And what makes it a classic, and it's so funny because the criteria you named, take away words, music that takes us back to the movie. All of those criteria, they apply for me when I'm thinking about a classic. But those aren't what make this movie a classic to me.
Okay. Gotcha.
What make this movie a classic to me is the fact that it is capturing an important part of the Black community. I love that somebody said, you know what? The Black barbershop needs a movie to itself. I love that. Because I feel like there's certain parts of the Black community that we've documented the HE double hockey sticks out of, like the Black church. Okay, we really don't need any more Black church movies or shows. We're done. We got it. But the barbershop, I was like, man, thank you. Thank you for honoring the barbershop. And for even, again, bro's like, they put all the types in there in a way that it was forced. But I appreciated that. I was like, show this diversity of these different kind of Black men in here. Don't have only one type of a Black man in a space, which is what we always see. It's like, if it's this kind of movie, then we see this kind of Black man, and it's like, but we all coexist together. This is why I can have all of my friends are Black, and my Black card is always in a precarious state because we just accept each other for who we are. And so I appreciated that, what the movie was doing, that it was celebrating the barbershop. It was celebrating all different kinds of Black men, and I like that the Black women in there were positively portrayed. They also had like these silly Black women. The woman who had gotten fed up, broke down a car, wasn't even the right car,
She drove away so fast.
I just even appreciated the way the Black women were represented in it. It to me was just, and again, y'all, I have to say, I didn't laugh out loud, but there were many times where I smiled. And it was like when Calvin and his wife were talking, and she was like, listen, obviously what you're doing is stupid, but I love you. I just like, and then like when they did the montage where they just went around, everybody dancing to the Marvin Gaye, I was like, that's us. So that's why it's a classic, bro, but it's not it's a very different criteria than what I would normally use. But this movie is a classic for me because of those reasons.
And you made me think something that I just want to awkwardly jab into here, because you made me think of something when you were talking. Like watching Cedric the Entertainer's character, which is over the top, I still felt like I was watching Cedric the Entertainer. And what I wanted to compare it to was the characters in Coming to America, where I never felt like I was watching Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall in those barbershop scenes.
Sure.
Even when he did the Jewish man,
Totally.
Like you don't feel like you're watching. If a man wants to be called Muhammad Ali, he should respect his wishes. This is America. And call him Muhammad Ali. Like you don't even
I'm gonna call him Clay. His mama named him Clay.
You don't feel like you're watching that. You feel like you're and I'm just saying
that's a good point. Yeah.
That is what I would have liked to see. Even if you're going to go over the top with a character, make me feel like I'm not watching you.
Totally.
I'm watching. So just the same way with Shanae and Medea. Like when you watch Medea, you feel like you're watching Tyler Perry dressed up like Medea. Whether you enjoy, but when you watch Shanae, you do not feel like you're watching Martin. It feels like you're watching a completely different character. You know what I'm saying?
I see we're gonna need to circle back to Martin in some way, somehow on the podcast. We got to figure it out.
I mean, they have that whole reunion special on BT Plus now. So
yeah.
But anyway, just when you were talking that, it made me think of that point I wanted to make earlier. I forgot about.
Well, I'll say for me, it was a bit of a struggle. I watched it and I enjoyed it while I was watching it. But I will say I had to lean into the nostalgia of it. I think that is what drew me the most to Barbershop, is just knowing that it's just been around. And to Aubrey's point, when I was watching it, I was like, there are no sayings from this movie, but I do feel like, although there are no sayings that have like permeated our community, if I said some scenes, people would absolutely know what I was talking about. So like if I was to say to someone when Cedric Entertainer is like, Jesse Jackson ain't shit, everybody will be like, okay, we'll get a chuckle from it, because it's like there are people in the Black community that will say some outrageous things, and we just as a community know that there are certain things, even if you think it, you're not allowed to say it. you have to be like, it just keeps it to itself. So when there's that one bold person that steps out and says, listen, but not that anybody was thinking that about Jesse Jackson, I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that just someone that says something outrageous. So anyway, I felt like there were scenes that people would understand and remember, but just for it to kind of be in there. But with that being said, I did still enjoy it while I was watching it. And I walked away from like, I missed this movie. I was like, okay, like this was good. But even some of it brought up larger conversations that I was having with my friends about this movie. That, there were certain references that happened in the movie that just kind of made me go, this goes to just really a conversation of like, beauty standards. That was another conversation that I was kind of just having in my mind, and I had it with some friends about what was being said sometimes in the movie, and just even the pressures of what your body is supposed to look like to just even get simple attention. Not that everybody's out here trying to get attention, but attention is nice sometimes. It's nice for the ego. So anyway, I enjoy. So with all that being said, I would definitely give this my Clippers. I would consider it a classic. It's something that if I had a list of, it wouldn't like be in my top 10, but it's like if I'm making sure that my kids understand certain references, they're going to watch Barbershop. Like it's going to happen. Now, would they watch the other two? Probably not. I wouldn't be, but it's like, this is on the list.
If we use the box office numbers, it say watch the other two.
Listen.
And Beauty Shop.
Yeah.
They all did pretty well, I got to say. Well.
Yeah, I mean, I would have it. And I was very torn about this last night. Like I really wanted, but if I was being honest, I just
listen. You gotta be honest.
That's it. And there you have it.
And the thing is, even if I was putting together a Blu-ray collection, I would have the Barbershops.
It would absolutely be.
But it's just. It didn't hit me.
And I feel happy that I watched it, and I feel like it does feel important in the community, and I feel like I caught up.
Yeah.
And I do want to watch the others now. I have seen Beauty Shop, and now I want to watch Barbershop 2 and 3 because I've had that experience. So there's something about it that feels important that we watched it. It feels appropriate. You know?
It was a good pick.
Well, there you have it, folks. Barbershop is not a classic from the Wright Perspective. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We will see you next time. Love you, bro and sis.
Love you.
Bye. Bye. Love y'all.